Welcome back to Inspired Forward, everyone. I'm Dan Trinidad, and today I have Brian Covey as our guest. Brian's a well-respected leader and coach in the mortgage industry as VP and regional production leader for Loan Depot. He spends his days coaching, mentoring, and training loan consultants. He's a member of the Forbes Real Estate Council and a committed husband and a father of three. Welcome, Brian.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dan.
You bet. I've heard so many great things about you, and I know that the guests are going to be excited to hear your journey, hear your story, and hear how you've created the momentum you have while still maintaining your health and your key relationships and all the other important stuff in life. I often talk about the whole Brian goes to work, right? It's your health, it's your relationships, we have it. Our careers just integrated into our whole life, and oftentimes when we're in this industry, as you know, it can be pretty consuming, and oftentimes people forget that there's a whole bunch more to life. So that's why we do this show, and I'm really excited to have you on the show. Why don't you start by kind of telling us your journey, your story, how you ended up in the industry, and we'll go from there.
Always those fun stories, how we all landed here, and we look back, and none of us probably chose the industry directly. I said the industry kind of chose us in weird ways. But I grew up, had fantastic parents, my older brother. We were always competitive in sports, and I loved being on teams. I grew up playing soccer and basketball. Stopped growing in about 9th grade, so I realized soccer was going to be the avenue, and excelled there, did really well, got to play in college and a little bit of pro ball. And during that journey, I always start there because I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about some great coaches and mentors that I had that really helped shape who I am today, and forever indebted to them because they took time as a young adult to invest in me and teach me habits, like showing up on time, staying late after practice to put in extra work and all those things. And so when I got out of playing sports, I was like, well, I want to be around a team that's competitive in an industry that's fast-paced and all those. And I had friends that were real estate agents, and then some of my family's friends that were builders and all. And I thought, well, all my friends want to buy houses. I like numbers. I like finance. I'll start in the bank. So I actually did start on the credit side and was doing more of the auto lending and consumer lending. And then about a year after that, I realized with Wells Fargo, I'm going to go in. My friends are all buying homes. This could be really a career path for me to see where it goes. And if they need money, who better than for me to help them?
Yeah, it's a cool industry. I did it similarly, but I didn't even know what a mortgage was when I got into the mortgage business.
Right.
That was the first part of my training. This is what a mortgage is, and I'm sure you went through that same process. So you got into mortgage, and then what?
Yeah, so I ended up, I was with Wells Fargo for 13 years. So early part of my career, I was like a lot of us, I was learning guidelines, and I had some great mentors teaching me about, here's the difference between a VA loan, an FHA, a debt to income ratio, and all. I'm like, and there's a lot. Okay, but I said, I'm going to master this because my competitive side kicked in. And so if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it well. And I got married about a year into the business. And so my wife and I were buying a house. I'm like, well, she's an ICU nurse. I've got to provide for the family. I'm coaching soccer. I'm doing mortgages. And I continued with Wells, and fortunately, was able to run a branch and then eventually an area. And I found really in that journey was my passion of, I love coaching and working with teams and people. That was where I realized, wow, maybe my journey isn't to continually be a top producer. Maybe my journey is going to be, how do I help others? And that's just where I realized I found joy, and had some great mentors say, Brian, if you show up every day and that's what you're most passionate about, and you're actually good at it and those skills align, you can always get better at those things, but you should align up every day and use those skills. And
that's awesome. So were you producing and leading at the same time?
I was, which, probably one of the hardest roles in the branch manager role of trying to recruit, manage production,
right.
Lead people, all this stuff, generate business for everybody. It's a lot of hats you're wearing every day.
Yeah, no question. Well, let's continue with your journey a little bit, but I do have questions about how you manage all of those aspects of your business.
Yeah, so the journey from there, after 13 years, was fantastic. And I realized that's when after the post-crisis, a lot of things were happening in our industry where, You had small companies coming up. You had banks that were kind of being, challenged for the first time. And a company came up that I'd met some great owners and some people over at Movement Mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
And right away connected up with Toby and Casey, great men, and had an opportunity to join and help them build out several markets in several states. And that time for me was great because learned a lot about servant leadership. They have a really cool culture, a lot of marketing stuff. And so I spent almost 4 years there just learning and being around some great people. And about that time, I got introduced to Anthony Shea, our CEO and owner. Here's another guy that comes along that has just super high EQ, IQ, all these things.
Big vision.
Just super sharp, right? Like I couldn't help but be around him, and he started talking to me. We started building this relationship. And, I give him credit because he stayed in touch, and that was really kind of the start of a relationship today that I was just with him this weekend. And I really look at as a mentor for me now at this stage of my career, where I just want to be around guys like that to learn and to soak up the information. So about a year and a half here, and the company's been fantastic, giving me just recently 3 more states to help us build out. And I'm really starting to stretch my capacity as a leader so I can bring those leaders on my team along with me for the journey.
Wow. That's
and then
awesome.
We all get to really do big things, which we are all looking to aspire and lead bigger teams.
Yeah. Now, did he actually, is he the one that recruited you, or did a recruiter contact you first?
Yeah. So here's the interesting part of it. It actually was through Dan Hansen. We had connected. Yeah. And it was an introduction that actually came from Toby over at Movement and said, hey, Anthony's a great guy. And I said, hey, I want to learn more in the industry. And they're all friends. They all talk. And so then I connected with Anthony, then Dan. And from there, I realized, wow, these are some guys I could be around and I could roll with, I could learn. And so still to this day, I tell Anthony, thank you, because that was just a pivotal time in my life that he came along, and the rest is kind of history.
There's a reason for it, for sure. So you're not producing individually any longer, are you?
Not anymore, although I was joking a minute ago in the hallway with a couple of our loan consultants. I just handed out 3 referrals myself. It's part of the business, right? But I have to tell everybody, if they reach out, I'm like, I'm going to take great care of you. Our team's going to do a great job. But, the day-to-day piece in my role, we're close to 100 loan consultants in our team and growing states. So that I would not be able to serve everybody well, trying to be.
Yeah, it's a tough balance for sure. Although sometimes I gave up my personal production back in 1990.
Yeah.
And, it was a hard decision, but, and the concept of having an assistant, believe it or not, didn't exist in 1990. It was like, do your own thing and work as hard as you can. And it's kind of silly. I didn't think of hiring help for myself. So I started divvying out referrals as well and focused on growing the company. So there was a point though that you were producing and leading a team and probably doing the recruiting and, everything, else. Tell me a little bit how you managed, all of that.
Yeah, some days better than others.
Yeah.
Yeah. You look back, it's the lessons you learn. I was fortunate to have some good mentors around and ask them questions, but I think prioritizing my day and coming from the soccer regimen was very helpful for me right out of the gate, because in college we had practice. Usually we have to get there at 5 a.m. Practice would start at 6 a.m. So you had to get warmed up and trained. We'd be out, you go to classes, and you got to study afterwards. Usually there's, lifting and training and all of that in the afternoon, but you got to get your homework. You got to fit it all in. And then at the same time, you're in college, so you have friends, you want to go out, you want to do things, and you realize, wow, I've got to figure out priorities and I've got to understand time management. And so I applied those when, as a branch manager, as you're growing your team, there's the ebbs and flows. Like every day as you come in, I found for me having a schedule coming in, and I've gotten better over time, but I wish I'd known then what I know now. But having a schedule I'll look at on Sundays now. Back then I would look at it that morning and go, okay, what have I got to do today? And, back then Todd Duncan and some other guys were coming out and they're like, you got to have green activities, dollar producing activities. So I thought, well, recruiting, that's good. Writing loans, that's good. Helping my team generate loans and sales calls, that's good. That's all green. But at that time, the technology we have today was not in place.
Right.
So you really had to manually print out pipeline reports, and you had to go through, and you were more involved in that. And so, I kind of learned, but I was really along the journey. Like I would say every year I tried just to get a little bit better. And that part wasn't until recently that I could probably be honest with myself and go, man, you could have done a lot better. I'm probably hard on myself, but it's times where you're balancing it all, and you're like,
that's where the learning takes place, right?
yeah.
I mean, if everything's easy, and you know this from competitive athletics and college and pros, it's that you, first of all, you've got a work ethic, you've got a competitive spirit, and you've got that desire to always get better. So you're ambitious people like yourself, it's extremely challenging to be content and happy with where you're at. You're generally dissatisfied, not in a bad way. I'm sure you're extremely grateful for your team and everything in your life, but dissatisfied in that I can do better. I want to, and I struggle with that every single day.
Right.
So no, you don't want to downplay at all the athletic background that you've got, because I think it plays into a lot of what we do. In fact, 5 recent new hires for me are coming right out of college and were competitive athletes, and they hit the ground wanting to succeed. In fact, I gotta kind of hold them back a little bit to make sure they know what they're talking about, because they want to go out and just gain business, right? And I love that. They're so coachable, and I'm having a lot of fun with that. So tell me a little bit about who you're recruiting. Are you looking for just seasoned people, or are you too looking for people you can teach?
Yeah, so both, really. I think we've had some success within the organization. We have an ACEs program that's really for newbies that come in. But on the retail side, I look and go, wow, I started as a real junior loan consultant and came in the business and learned from that. So I know what that takes. And I like people coming up that are relatively new. And so that's really for us. I would say we're looking for the right people. And then the skills we can train, we can teach them things about the mortgage business, which we all know can be learned. We all learn them. And so I'm trying to find the best combination. For my role now, it started to shift as we expanded the region. I'm looking for leaders that want to lead other teams and larger organizations. And so I've kind of moved from that stage in my career where I was building a branch, just a team. Then it's, okay, now let's have a couple branches, then multiple branches. Now we have multiple markets, multiple states. We have 7 states in my team now. And for that to go well, and for a large company like us to feel small, we've got to have local CEOs. I always tell them, you're the CEO of your team, you're the CEO of your market. You're going to make decisions every day. Some are going to be great, and it's okay in our world that some of them aren't great, right? But we just have to do it with integrity and make sure that it's okay to make mistakes. Just we got to make sure that we're trying and we're always doing the right thing for our customer and our team.
So are you doing the recruiting?
I am, a lot of it. I've got a partner in the recruiting side that fortunately the company has given me a partner there, and actually hired a recruiting coach about 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years ago, that I recognized that that's going to be my role, and I'm going to be great at this. And I would say I was maybe not even good at it. I would get wins here and there, but the inconsistency of recruiting doesn't win championships, right? I mean, if you look at people like Nick Saban and some others that, guys that have recruited over the years, Dabo Sweeney, you watch Clemson, these guys, they've recruited over years acquiring talent and keeping them there. And you just have to say, wow, like, what is that? And so I said, well, for me, I need to get a coach. I need to learn these skills. Because as a producer, it's a different hat. It's a different ballgame. And so really been fine-tuning that and shifted from chasing talent to trying to have talent attracted to myself and our brand and our team and see what we're doing. And they're so attracted to that model that they say, you know what, we should have a conversation. And that's actually the place in which we've shifted to now, where people are actually reaching out to us saying, hey, I've seen
your post. You're not doing cold calling. They're calling you and saying, I've heard a little about you and I want to learn more.
That's the shift, because once they see you, social media has changed the game for us.
Mm-hmm.
When we got into business, you had to make calls. You had to go show up in person to get to people directly, whereas now you want to underestimate. You still have to get in person with everybody. You still have to have the face-to-face. But the ability for me to get my message to 5,000, 10,000 people in a single day and connect with them and go, wow, I resonate with Brian's message. When he calls, I'll take his call. I'll actually meet with him. I've really tried to get better at that skill and put myself out there and realize that some people aren't going to like it. And they're going to be, like, yeah, not interested. But the ones that are, we've already got alignment in some of our beliefs and values. that really can foster a relationship, whether they join my team or not. It'll build a relationship faster.
What percentage of your time is spent actually recruiting, meeting with potential candidates and having conversations on the phone and going and meeting them?
Yeah, it probably varies between any day, 25 to 50%. It's a large part. And that's really, some conversations are just initial conversations. Some, like today, I'm making a couple of offers. And so including all that in, and then also including strategically, my assistant and I have got a social media strategy and campaigns to make sure that we're getting those target audience, producers and leaders to engage.
Awesome. And so you spend the rest of your day mentoring and coaching and inspiring and problem solving and all the other stuff that exists.
All the other, like, because you can't forget your team you've brought on and you've got things there. But what I've realized is, I think I'm starting to mature in that a bit, is I don't have to solve every problem. I have great, smart, intelligent people on the team in different roles that they can solve that problem. And so we've empowered them in our culture. If you can solve it, again, you're the CEO of your branch and your market. If you can solve that problem, I want you to solve it. You don't have to come through. You don't have to come through all these channels. We want you to figure out the solution right there. And that's allowed me to then focus on what the team needs.
Right. So how many people are on your leadership team in your region?
Yeah, so if I include sales managers and branch managers, we're right up to 15 that are actual leaders looking that they do some form, different levels of recruiting. They're all producing today as well, and they're leading their teams.
Awesome. Awesome. So what are you finding their biggest challenge or their biggest pain point right now, in our marketplace and with loan originators? What are you seeing as, probably their biggest challenge or struggle?
A lot of noise in two areas. One, I would tackle the market itself. And I've had conversations with producers lately, and they are all in on purchase. And my belief is you can be all in on purchase, and you can also serve your customers that are in the money to do a refinance. Because those customers that you do a refinance for today have referrals that they can send you over the next few years, and then most likely will buy in the next 5 to 7 years. So I'm seeing a dichotomy there of producers are struggling with, how do I balance this? Because the expectations for someone refinancing and understanding your capacity and your technology and how do you serve that customer well, and then you have to turn your hat on and go, wow, this customer is a first-time home buyer. They're buying their first home. Now I've got to slow down and really give them the education and advice that they need. Whereas the person refinancing, right, if they are 80% or less, there's no MI involved. It's a pretty easy, maybe we get an online evaluation. That process is simple, but how do you build a relationship with that customer and not just make it so transactional? I think that's where I'm sensing and feeling, and we're just trying to remind everyone is a customer. Everyone that you talk to, and you need to treat them better than they expect. But to balance those two right now, I'm seeing a lot of people, quite honestly, they're struggling because maybe their company's not giving them the message or training of how do you balance it? Well, then how do you balance it?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I see that, there's low-hanging fruit right now with refinances, with rates being where they are. And so you start putting your energy into that market, which is awesome. And like you just said, I think loan officers should take care of their customers and make it a great experience, whether it's a purchase or refi, because that is your annuity. That is your, that's the only thing, quite frankly, you have is your database of happy customers, because they're going to come back and they're going to refer. But, when the pipelines start filling up with all these refis, then it's the negligence of their business partnerships and trying to get them focused. Okay, you still got to make those calls and have your meetings and get your purchases, because when rates go up, those refis become a little more challenging to get.
Big time. Like we said, two things we told our team is this market won't last forever. And so how you treat people today is how they're going to remember you when they look to refer or they're refinancing today, they look to purchase, they're going to remember how well you actually treated them. So keep that in mind every time you have a conversation with them.
One of the things I'm seeing more than ever is the rate conversations coming up. And I'm finding myself needing to coach our team often about the conversation. Like, us mortgage bankers are all very, very close. And then you've got the Quickens of the world, the internet lenders, and then you've got the mortgage brokers, and then you've got some credit unions. And, how to have those conversations has been, interesting. Like, probably 50% of the loan originations get in the price conversation, where, prior to this, it was just all trust on the referral, and, away you go. Are you seeing any of that as well?
It's changed, right? And what we've seen is definitely in the refinance customer, they're armed with information and options. And so you've got to be prepared they are looking for the best price. And for many of them, yes, the service piece is always going to be important. But I found with customers refinancing, they've been through this before, and they're really looking for potentially that service to be great, but also the great rate. And so how do you combine? You use tools like Mortgage Coach and, educating our guys, to your point, like losing some of that. Hey guys, let's actually build our skills around this. That's a hard skill to build trust over the phone. You may never see them. If you go to closing, maybe you do on a refinance. How do you build their trust? And
absolutely. And, we're, as a company, I'm sure you are as well. The customers that are concerned about price, it's, you do concessions, you do what you can to make sure the customer's happy, because like what you said earlier, they come back, they refer, and they are significantly more educated about the whole process. And, you do what you have to do, but it's not all the time. And generally, if you know how to have those conversations with customers, and we use Mortgage Coach extensively as well, it starts taking customers into a little bit deeper conversation about really what type of loan, they should be obtaining, and that could shift the conversation to away from price a bit. But Dave Savage, the owner of Mortgage Coach, and I had an extensive conversation last night about this. He's in town and stayed at my house, and we went out to dinner, and that's kind of one of the things he's hearing more than ever, is how his tool is serving his clients better than it ever has, quite frankly. These are the markets that they typically excel in. So
the message we've shifted is, this isn't just a tool for the loan consultant. If I was still originating today and we talk about this, I would be telling customers, I have this tool that will actually map out and give you that side-by-side comparison that allows you to be empowered to make the best choice about your finances. And we go in this together, right? That partnership. So some of that language, I know you're probably saying the same things, is there's got to be a partnership in this. It's not transactional. You don't call me and I give you the money and tell you what to do. It's a partnership and that advice. And with tools like that, you are expert.
No question. So we've talked a little bit about business. I know you're, a committed, husband and parent. So you've talked about balancing, team leadership, regional leadership, recruiting. We didn't go deep into that, but, you've got a very full plate. How do you take care of your health, your home life, your important relationships?
Yeah, so here's what I learned, kind of a breakthrough, maybe a year and a half ago. For me, and I was working out. I wouldn't say that it was necessarily as consistent. Like I was in there and working out a lot, but I wasn't intentional about how I would prioritize that time versus balancing it with my kids and my wife and all that. And then I really had a friend of mine that introduced me to this concept more of like integration instead of balancing it. Because balance almost refers to, we'll put 25% over here and 50% there and 25 there. That's not how it works. So what I learned about myself, for me, morning workouts, I'll go like this morning at 5:15, 6 a.m. class. I like classes because I like people. And so I like to be around with people. There's accountability.
Yeah.
But I used to do CrossFit, and now I'm doing a very similar to that. It's called Iron Tribe. And we've got great coaches, and we've got great members and people that you show up, you're accountable. And I found my output is a lot stronger when there's other people around and they're pushing through, and you break through barriers. And so to start my day, that is a great way to go ahead and get my self-talk right, and to tell myself, you know what, like this morning, I woke up, I'm like, man, I could just go back to sleep and be comfortable. And I asked myself this question: am I interested or am I committed? And I'm committed to my health, I'm committed to my wife, committed to my family, the business and the team that I'm a part of. And I've learned that shifting that language, it's almost self-talk. And so I've used that interested or committed, almost self-talking myself. So then I come home, in a typical day, I'll help my wife. We'll get, lunches and all that stuff ready for the kids. This year, I've got 3 kids in 3 different schools. So that's,
Oh,
oh man, yeah, you talk about balancing it. So I figured, okay, on several days, I'll take my oldest, my daughter, to school. And then there's a day, and we're looking at maybe another day that I can take my youngest, as he's in kind of more of a kind of Mother's Day out program at the church. Try to do that. And they're all involved in sports. And so I've realized for me that I've got to set the phone down, set my business around those schedules. I calendar everything so that I can be there. And honestly, I'm not at everything. I wish I could be, but I try to be there consistently with them. And then as we're together, like last night, my daughter and I and my older son, we were watching soccer, which I love. My daughter plays. And so just those moments of like, let's hang out. I've even had her help me edit videos that we use for our team. Like, hey, will you help me edit this video? So she's part of the process, sees what dad does at work and trying to do that. And then, wife and I, we try to do the best we can. And I think like a lot of parents probably feel with 3 kids spread out in the ages that we have, 12, 10 and a half, and 4, there's a lot going on, especially in the month of August, that will test you.
oh my gosh, I get it. It's interesting, and again, going back to your ambition, you're in your head. You want to be the best husband, the best father, and when you're at home, you're trying to be present, but you got a lot going on in your mind about business, and then when you're at business, you're trying to be present, but you got a whole lot on your mind about where you actually want to be. My only advice is, don't do anything you're really going to regret. I don't think I missed. We're more of a baseball family, and we are a baseball family, and I coach the kids like you coach soccer, and it definitely threw me into the schedule. So on my calendar, our practices, our games, they go on first. Dates with my wife go on second. My health things go on first, actually, and everything else fits around that. You've got a little different dynamic than I ever. I didn't have multiple states. I've had 2-hour drives to different branches, but I've never had to get on an airplane or take a day away from the office, and that's a huge challenge you have, I'm sure.
Different dynamic for sure, but I'm learning. Here's one tactic I implemented that would probably help others is I realized, with my family being a priority, as I started recruiting, one tactic was we have one of the top branches in the entire company here in Nashville where I live. And I've got great leaders, great producers, great support staff. And so I've actually started flying in producers to come see me or leaders that want to lead a team and said, it's a better use of your time to come hang out with us. You're going to get to meet more people than just me. I can show up, we can have lunch, coffee, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, like you and I get a relationship, and it's somewhat superficial in the sense of you're going to present yourself the best. I'm going to present myself and our company the best. Why don't you come in? We'll open up the doors, and it'll be a very casual, let's get to know each other, and we'll know if it's the right fit. We should continue that discussion. But that was purely driven, if I'm 100% honest, that was driven because I want to be home with my family more. Right?
Yeah, I love it, man. That's a great idea. And do you do that? You do that with your branch managers or your recruits or both?
Both. If they're a higher level producer, then I will bring them out here. Like we've got someone here today, for example, and they're spending time with the local leader that's here in the market. Here, they're coming from a different market, but a lot of our team, we really just said, hey, we're in it for each other. And so they'll help each other recruit. And Nashville's just become that kind of setup for us. You can do a lot of video calls. So if there are people they need to talk to in our organization that are not physically here, we'll just have them video in and get to know each other. But it does provide that way for us to vet people and for them to vet us. And then I'm starting now, as our team's growing, is to let go of some of those and say, hey, you know what? I know you want to grow as a leader. Why don't you run this next one? Why don't you spend time with this candidate? And you get to run it. I'll be part of a couple of meetings. I want you to run it. Because then that's training them and then give me feedback and I can see how it went. For me, that's observing them, which a lot of people don't do today. A lot of leaders don't observe their team in action. And so it's a great way for me to observe. If you want to be a recruiting leader today, how do I observe you recruit? Well, this is a great way for me just to dial that in.
Now, are they coming up with the agendas, or are you saying this is what we want to talk about today? Go get it.
We have some, obviously operations, right? You want to talk to processing, underwriting, closing. How does your process work? What does that look like? Then typically marketing, is something that's involved, and social media is a big piece there. They usually want to talk to other top producers or leaders that are a little further along in the journey, that they say, hey, what's it like to work here? And then as of late, really people want to talk to production assistant. This is a new real secret sauce. And if you get the right team and you have a production assistant, many of the top producers have one today. And so they want to know, well, what's it like if my assistant comes with me? Is he or she going to like it here? Or are they really the people that have to do all the work and don't get paid well? Like, you want to know those in a culture. And so we open up all of that. And those are typically there's other stuff, people want to know more capital markets and, all the tools we have and technology, and we roll out if they want it, but we try to really customize it for that individual.
Oh, what a great way to, to build your culture. I mean, people are seeing all of it, and the energy and
Yeah.
How you handle things. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. So what's next for you?
Man, well, in the last 2 weeks, really honored that they said, Brian, hey, we need to grow and expand Virginia, DC, and Maryland. And so next for me is just making sure I spend time building relationships with those leaders, that we continually recruit and grow and develop the team and get ready. I'm already planning 2020, right? I'm already thinking about, okay, what do we need to have? And I've been very hands-on in hiring processors and underwriters to our team. It's probably like all of us. The reality is hiring centralized or just in one market, that you can't scale that anymore, especially not with a team that I'm trying to build in that size and state. And now I'm involved even in, okay, let's bring some processors with us. Let's bring some underwriters to us as well. Because what I want to make sure is I give my team the ability to win every day. And right now, capacity is probably one of the number one things that people are not talking about.
That's right.
And a lot of companies aren't hiring for capacity. They're not talking about the technology that's going to help. The technology is not going to solve it all. It's going to be, depending on your company and what tech you have, to different degrees of wins there. But I'm all in, and so are my leaders, of, hey, if we need 2 more processors, we're going to go post on social media. We're going to go call all of our friends, and we're going to go find them. We're not waiting for anybody. This is our job, right? As leaders, it's our job to figure that out for our team. That's what they've basically entrusted us to do. And so I'm looking forward to 2020 because I think we've laid the foundation culturally in a lot of our language. And I've got a lot of people on my team that I'm fortunate that we are able to now challenge each other and raise the bar for what we're trying to build.
So these new states that you got, are there any branches yet? Or are you starting from scratch?
So there's a few, and we have 20 producers over there, some really talented individuals. We have some processors there as well. And I'm looking at that going, wow, these markets in Virginia, for example, a lot of VA business when I used to work the Norfolk area. And then you have a lot of new construction builder business. That's in our sweet spot. Then you get up in that DC, Maryland, and you have some niches for us that we'll be able to compete really well. And so we have, my vision is, we'll be able to get to $1 billion up there here in the next 18 to 24 months. So that'll be $1 billion on top of, the $1 billion that we're doing in the other group. So $2 billion is kind of the number we've been saying, hey guys, here's where we're going.
That's really cool. So so in 2020, do you see anything getting in our way? What do you see the market doing, or our industry?
So a phrase we use is do simple better. And I'll tell you, I think that's where companies are going to win next year is if you try to get out and get too cute and too fancy and you're trying to do things that maybe you're not skilled at, or you're just trying to do too many things, honestly, which many of us are guilty of that, right? I think for us is just do simple better. And that's down to everyday tasks that we see. And that's every role and everybody on our team. And so I still think there's going to be a capacity issue, probably larger than it is. If Barry Habib's right, and Barry was telling us, hey guys, we may see 1.3, right? We saw 1.5. What does 1.3 look like? I don't think people have wrapped their head around the velocity and how many customers are in the money that bought a year ago. How many customers that we will now need to find a way to serve. And here's what will happen. I mean, this, Dan, is like, if we don't find a way to serve them, they're going to go to the Quickens and the other online lenders. And I'm a fan, like we say, start online, but finish local. Come to our team. We're the local experts in your community.
I love that. And what you don't want is them for you to get EPOs because you weren't able to grab them,
Right.
That's going to be a whole nother challenge if rates improve a lot, which I believe what Barry's saying is more than likely going to happen. So give me a book you recommend. Like, what's the most common book that you hand out to people?
Yeah, so two right now. One is The Four Agreements.
Mm-hmm.
You read that one before?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I usually give that to folks if they come, spend time with me for the day. They're a potential candidate wants to join our team. I just think that one just in life, that one is like fabulous.
Right.
Our group has been going through a couple right now. One was a couple years ago it came out, but if you remember Jocko Willink and he had extreme ownership,
Uh-huh.
that for me was fantastic. And then couple it with the dichotomy of leadership was pretty interesting there. Those have been a couple. I was actually listening to a podcast that John Maxwell had on leaderships. And I think there's leadership right now that they are shifting and adapting to the market. Our role as a leader, I look at 3 years ago, is absolutely different than what it is now. And my role and my ability to lead my team is going to have to be even better in 2020 and beyond. And if I'm not growing as a leader, then they're going to find another leader that can lead them, right? And
so what is the difference from 3 years ago to today in leadership? What is the difference, the evolution?
That's it. Yeah, so one is the personal brand side of things. Is I think as a leader, many of us 3 years ago, you were kind of hesitant to put out like what you stood for, what you believed, and I saw that across the organization. You didn't have the videos that were happening out there and leading the teams, which we know connect with consumers directly and people that are there. And I'm seeing a lot of leaders truthfully not develop themselves, and they're not investing in coaching. They're not reading the latest books. They're not listening to the podcast. And my thing is, if your tank is empty and you're only going off what you learned in the past, training isn't something that you did or a seminar that you went to. Training is something you do every day as a leader, and then you can instill that in your team. And so I'm seeing a lot of leaders, quite honestly, get complacent around they've gotten to that position and they think they've arrived. Well, then you got guys like me coming up that still relatively young in the game, kind of in that middle ground. And I think why we're attracting top talent is people want to be around people that have energy and passion for getting better because they know that's going to make them better. And I'm seeing that right now. That's a shift.
Wow. Right. That's great insight, man. That is, you're dialed in. So give me a personal goal. Give me your big personal goal for next several months or a year.
Yeah. So, one of the things, obviously, spending more time with the family. And I've told them one of the ways that I'd like to take this new opportunity, one of my personal goals is, we probably take 2 vacations a year. And I was joking with my wife, I said, wouldn't it be amazing if we could take 4 vacations a year and didn't have to worry because, I'm working hard at the office and we're able to set aside enough and go take, 4 vacations as a family to reconnect. To your point, my kids aren't getting younger, and to have that time. So that's really a goal for me to continue to just invest and spend time with them. And then the personal side, I'm doing some competitions in the CrossFit world, like competitive stuff. That just those are not necessarily one and done. They're more of I want to compete throughout the year and put myself in situations that are going to challenge me, that I'm going to have some wins and some things that I go, wow, I need to work on that.
Awesome. Wow. The time goes by fast, man. I'm sure all kinds of people are telling you, your kids, once they start entering school, for some reason, time goes by a lot faster. And like I said, don't miss it. I mean, it's a blink of the eye. And as you get a little older, and you already know this, but quite frankly, your health and your family and your spiritual beliefs, those are the most important things. I mean, there's not anything more important than that. So our careers are just part of the whole scheme of life. So Brian, how do people get a hold of you if they want to be in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. Well, obviously, probably a lot of the audience is on LinkedIn, so you can find Brian Covey there. Been really working on my Instagram. That's one of those things I've been developing, and it's just THE, Brian Covey, and that's the handle there. And those are probably the 2 best places. If you want to follow along in the journey, I share a lot of stuff from the fitness side to, with the family and things that I'm learning. And what I've realized is I started sharing some of my journey, it's helping other people going through similar life events and things themselves. But yeah, I would love to connect in those 2 spots. And engage, let me know, what you're up to and how maybe I could be of service, and just encourage you along in your journey as well.
All right, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And I'll definitely be in touch. And my wife and I are planning a trip to Nashville. We don't know when yet, but we want to get out there. We've never been, and I've heard nothing but phenomenal things, and have some friends there. And so I'll definitely reach out to you.
Please do. It's an incredible city, growing fast. Like 100 people a day move here, but it's still got some quiet, quaint spots, and it's really it's starting to grow up.
Some good country music.
Unbelievable. Yeah, you can get lost on Broadway down there. It's incredible.
Wow. Brian, thank you so much for your time and your insight, and I wish you well. I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate you having me on.
You bet. Thank you.